In 2010, the federal debt in millions of a small island country was 1,362,432, and the population was 126 million. Compute the federal debt per capita. Then in Part B, 2014, the federal debt in million grew to 1,878,990, and the population grew to 131 million. Compute this federal debt per capita. And then in Part C, compare your answers. How much bigger was the population? How much more was the federal debt? And then how much did the federal debt per capita change and how? So let's start Part A, federal debt per capita. So remember, when we talk about the word per, that implies like a fraction bar. So we're going to start on the top with the federal debt, which is 1,362,432 million. And per is the fraction bar. And we know our population, right? Because capita implies people. And that's 126 million. Well, hopefully when you look at this, you're like, hey, million over million cancels out. Right? They're the same. Million is the same as adding 6 zeros to the end of this. And if you think about it, they'll just each cancel out. So it works out very nicely that these millions will just go away. And I'm really just working on reducing 130. Am I missing a number? Yep, there should be a 2. That will change the whole scope of the problem. Divided by 126. So when I divide those, I end up with $10,812.95. So in 2010, the federal debt per capita for this small island country is $10,812.95. Then 4 years go by and you're in 2014. The federal debt grew, the population grew. Let's find our new federal debt per capita. So I have, again, my federal debt on top in millions and my population on the bottom, again in millions. And again, those cancel out. So I just play with my numbers. And I come up with a federal debt per capita of $14,343.44 for 2014. Notice in both parts A and B, we rounded to the nearest penny because we're talking about money. And with money, you always round to the nearest cent. Now, Part C has three different parts to it. So, Part C, number 1, how much bigger was the population in 2014? Well, in 2014, we had 131 million. In 2010, we had 126 million. So if I subtract those, I end up with a difference of 5 million. So the population was 5 million bigger in 2014. Same concept in Part 2, federal debt. Well, in 2014, our federal debt was 1,878,990 million. And in 2010, it was 1,362,432 million. So when I subtract, our federal debt increased by $516,558 million. That's a lot for this made-up example. And then Part 2, how much did the federal debt per capita change and how? Well, if we just compare our two per capitas, we had $14,343.44 in 2014, and I'm going to take away the $10,812.95 in 2010. When I subtract those, I get a difference of $3,530.49. So because that's a positive, right, it went up. From 2010 to 2014, our federal debt per capita increased, so it increased by $3,530.49.